Do you remember that hour of din before the attack? Now he is again telling himself, do you remember that noise? Din means noise. That restlessness, that noise, that emergency before the attack, where everyone was preparing, rushing and hustling around. Do you remember that? How bad an event that was just before the attack. And the anger, the blind compassion that seized and shook you then. And do you remember the anger that you had before taking part in this? Sasson, even during the war, never wanted to be part of this war. There were many times that he wrote against this war, and he was thrown out of the army, and then he was injured. His own life was a very strange one, where he was a part of World War I, and then he left World War I, he was injured. All these things happened. He was angry. He was angry at the World War. He was angry at the first attack. He was angry with the first fire that broke the World War I, and seized and shook. Blind compassion. Blind compassion is a statement like, you would get even in a poem by Matthew Arnold, The Dover Beach, where ignorant armies clash by night, is a verse from that particular poem, where he says that the armies, and even if you have read recently The Shield of Achilles, there you also have armies waiting for an order, and that order comes from a person who is without face, and they move on without reason, without logic. They think that they are doing something great, but eventually they end up in more misery. And that is the blind compassion here that they have, maybe for their country, for their countrymen, for their land, for anything it could be. But that blind compassion at the end leads, he says, that seized and shook you. That shook you, that trembled you, that made you more angry, that made your life full of misery. Then, as you peered at the doomed and haggard faces of your men, when did it shock you? When you looked at your own army men, at your own soldiers whom you were accompanying at that time, and those faces were doomed. Those faces were doomed. They were haggard faces. Haggard means weary, tired, fearful. You looked at those faces, and you knew that they are not going to return. At least all of them are not going to return. At least majority of them are going to be doomed, are going to die. Do you remember the stretcher cases? Stretcher cases, the cases on which the dead bodies were being taken, or the injured soldiers were being taken. Do you remember them? Lurking back with dying eyes. And on those stretchers you will find soldiers who are either injured, who are about to die, or those who were already dead, and lolling heads, whose heads were lolling. There was no energy left. Now, as they were dragging them, so their hands were falling, their heads were falling, their eyes were falling. Those ashen grey masks of the lads. Ashen grey masks is a reference to the helmet, or that head safety that the soldiers would be putting on. And do you remember them? Now, this is again very important reference here to the face of the soldiers, which means a changed face, a different face, a different way, a different, those human beings who look no more human beings, who were keen and kind and gay, who once were keen and kind and gay, and those faces who were now under the cover, under the helmet, who were doomed, who were haggard, who were in complete misery. There was a time when these faces were happy and gay, when they were peaceful, when they were hopeful, when there was life in those faces. Have you forgotten yet? Now again he repeats the same. You must not forget. If you have forgotten, he would remind himself all these incidents. Why is he reminding himself? Is because he doesn't want himself or anyone else in the world to forget the brutalities of the World War I. Look up. and swear by the green of the spring that you will never forget. Now, green of the spring in the last line is a ray of hope, is the time post-World War I. Now he says you must swear by this, swear by the greenery, swear by the peace, swear by the hope that you will never forget this. Because if the peace, the greenery, the love, the compassion, which is not blind but is real, influences you, affects you, you must swear by it that you will not forget all those incidents of World War I. You will not forget the brutalities of World War I. You will not forget that war is a bloody game. You will not forget the corpses. You will not forget the stench. You will not forget the stretchers. You will not forget the din, the noise before the attack. You will not forget those doomed and haggard faces. And because if you will not forget, it is only then that you will fight for peace in the world. You will fight that no such bloody game takes place again in the world. You will fight for peace all around the world. Now that was the poem Aftermath by Siegfried Sasson.